Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Liberty Call. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. Hope you're having a fantastical day out there. Been away from the office for a few hours. Well, I've been back for, I guess, about an hour or so, but had to run up to Denver and have my 6-month checkup with my rheumatologist, make sure all my joints and everything are working good. So, love fighting traffic. It wasn't that bad, but because my appointment was at 11 o'clock, so I didn't really have to fight the traffic up or back. But anyways, so clean wells. Good health as someone with ankylosing spondylitis can be. So if, try spelling it, you may have to phonetically try to figure that out. It's kind of like the ankylosaur dinosaur. But it's not going to kill me. It just makes life unpleasant at times. So anyways, hope you're having a great day out there. It is beautiful here in Colorado. I think the temp on the car driving back was like 60 degrees. It is beautiful. I mean, it's like maybe jeans, maybe a sweater or something if it's breezy outside, but anyways, all right. Well, I've been rambling for a minute and a half. So before we jump into the news, if you out there, for the 3 or 4 people that actually watch this stuff on a regular basis, if you could do me a favor, give me some thumbs up, a like, a share, subscribe, a follow, and press the notification bell. All righty, let's get into the markets. Dow Jones was down today, 0.17%, 76 points, closed at 44,705. The S&P 500 flat, up 0.04. 2 points, closed at 60.49. NASDAQ up 0.39%, 74 points, closed at 19,478. The VIX was down again today, 0.22%. It's at 1331. Let's see here. Canada was up 0.18, Brazil up 0.68, and Mexico up 0.9. Over in Europe, Germany was up 0.51, the UK up 0.56, France up 0.26, the Netherlands also up 0.26. Let's see here. Spain was up 1.18%, Italy up 1.03%, Switzerland down 0.04%, and Portugal up 0.68%. Russian exchanges in the red today. The MOEX down 1.9%, the RTSI down 0.99%. And the overnight markets, the Nikkei in Japan was up 1.84%, Australia up 0.56%, New Zealand not open again. Let's see here. The Shanghai in China, the Shanghai was up 0.44%. The Shenzhen component down 0.4%. China A50 up 0.61%. DJ Shanghai up 0.24%. Hang Seng up 1% even. And the Taiwan weighted not open. All right. So that is the markets for today. Feel smarter out there, folks? I know I do. I mean, it's kind of not everyone's just kind of waiting right now. It feels like, there was supposed to be an alien invasion today for the people who follow UFOs and conspiracies and stuff like that. A gentleman named Cliff High, CLIF, 1F, HIGH. That years ago, like 20 years ago, he had created this thing called the Webbot, which basically crawled the internet, and he was basically able to predict things in the future based upon the chatter on the interwebs. So supposedly 39, he in one of his projections or whatever from years and years ago, there was a supposedly 39 days after Joe Rogan interviews President Trump, there will be an alien invasion, or maybe a fake alien invasion. Who knows if like Project Blue Beam or one of those things. If you've never heard of it, look it up. It's a real thing. So at the time, back in like 2009, when this prediction came out, Joe Rogan. It's like he had just started the Joe Rogan. It didn't even have a name for it at the time. I don't think. I think it was just Joe and his buddy sitting around, getting baked and, talking about, politics and, UFOs and all sorts of crazy stuff. Anyways, today is 39 days since the actual event occurred where Joe, Trump was on Joe's show. And so I still don't see any aliens out there, but we'll see. It could be, within a day or so. So, everyone was kind of on pins and needles yesterday. And, today was the day if you counted it exactly. And then, who knows? All right. Well, let's get to the market recap and some things that, the markets and the economy, are they, rigged? I don't know. It seems like it sometimes. All righty. Well, let's get to the market recap here. S&P 500 in holding pattern ahead of Powell and jobs data. The S&P 500 closed virtually unchanged on Tuesday as markets paused after recent gains ahead of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's speech on Wednesday and the November jobs report due Friday. The NASDAQ rose slightly by 0.1%, while the Dow fell 0.1%. Labor market signals. U.S. job openings rose to 7.7 million in October, exceeding expectations of 7.5 and indicating continued strength in the labor market. The data arrives just before November's non-farm payrolls report, which could influence the Fed's rate decision. Their next meeting is on the 17th and 18th of this month. So I guess 2 weeks from now. Fed Governor Christopher Waller stated he is leaning toward supporting a December rate cut, but noted that the stronger than expected economic data could change his stance. In corporate highlights, Tesla fell 1% after a Delaware court upheld its decision to block Elon Musk's $56 billion pay package, despite shareholder approval to reinstate it. See, this just chaps my ass. I mean, to no end, as a business owner and, it just, someone working in the financial world for since 1998, it really angers me that, a judge who the company and the shareholders want to pay him this money, but some, do-gooder is, saying, no, you can't do that. It's like, well, I mean, if I want to pay someone for the work that they've done, who's to say I can't do that? I mean, yeah, there's rules around, my type of work as far as how I pay people and stuff like that. But, as long as it's within compliance, I mean, who cares? All right, back to corporate highlights. Zscaler dropped over 4% as soft guidance overshadowed the better-than-expected fiscal quarterly results and raised annual guidance. AT&T rose 3% following optimistic 2025 guidance, profit acceleration expectations for 2027, and the announcement of a $20 billion stock buyback. Credo Technology soared 47% after posting strong Q3 results that beat Wall Street estimates. And FedEx fell more than 3% after Bernstein downgraded the stock to market perform, citing risks in execution and policy. All right, so the outlook, markets are maintaining expectations for a December rate cut, but the long-term trajectory remains uncertain, particularly as inflationary risks under a Trump administration loom. Yeah, because inflation was not a problem under Biden. And investors are closely monitoring Powell's upcoming remarks and labor market data for clues on the Fed's next moves. Corporate announcements and economic indicators could continue to shape a mixed landscape as the year end approaches. All right, so that's that. Let's get to some data. Let's go to the JOLTS report here. This article comes from Zero Hedge. Job openings unexpectedly surged with biggest increase in 14 months. Quits also soar. All righty, where am I? Number 2. The October JOLTS report revealed a sharp rebound in U.S. job openings, rising by 372,000 to 7.744 million, the largest monthly increase since August of 23. This exceeded expectations by 225,000 and suggests continued strength in the labor market ahead of the November non-farm payrolls report. However, the data sparked skepticism due to the Department of Labor's low response rate and perceived manipulation. And if I remember from covering that date, that key piece of information from a few months ago was that I think only 30% of companies are reporting. So they're making up about two-thirds of the data, so we shall see. All right, so highlights and discrepancies. Job openings, the increase was driven by professional/business services, plus 209,000, accommodation food services, a plus 162,000, and information, 87,000, while federal government jobs fell by 26,000. Yay! Few less people on the payroll. Let's get everyone off welfare. Next up, hiring trends. Despite rising openings, hirings dropped to a post-COVID low of 5.313 million, reflecting weak October hiring. South Bay Research notes that this aligns with October's payroll data and hints at hiring improvements driven by hurricane recovery in November. And lastly here, quits spike. Quits rose by 228,000 to 3.326 million, the largest increase since May of 2023, led by accommodation/food services, 90,000, signaling workforce mobility. So skepticism over the data. The JOLTS report has faced criticism for relying on estimates with only 33% of survey respondents collected, leaving 2/3 of the data as guesswork. Construction job openings, previously flagged as inflated, declined again by 9,000, raising further doubts about the accuracy. The labor market appears resilient, with businesses showing hiring intent as Trump's regulation easing agenda takes shape. However, concerns about data reliability persist, casting uncertainty on upcoming November payroll data and influencing Federal Reserve rate cut deliberations. Yeah, because if the jobs data is all crap, and the Federal Reserve is supposedly making their decisions based upon the data, and that's the data, and so if the data is crap, garbage, it's kind of like programming a computer program. If you have a terrible, if you have tons of errors in your code, and it have a lot of bugs and things in it, you wrote it exactly as let's say somebody gave it to you to type out, but the person providing the information to you gave you bad information. Or it's kind of like financial planning. If someone comes to me and says, or a family comes to me and says, hey, I want to plan for the future. I want to retire by this date. Here's the assets that I have right now. Here's how much I'm able to save each month, each year, whatever. And then, I do the data, generate the report, determine the most efficient way to get to A to B. And then, they come back to me and say, oh yeah, I didn't really want to be honest about how much I really made, how much I really had in assets, because it's embarrassing. And because I really haven't saved enough and I don't really make enough. All you did was just waste my time, because all I got to do is go back and refigure the numbers, and odds are it's going to be a lot tougher. And so it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. So anyways, all righty. Next up, also from Zero Hedge, why government intervention is fueling the housing disaster. This comes via Shift Gold. All righty. The U.S. housing affordability crisis, marked by a record high 653,104 homeless. Oh, they got it down to the exact person. That's amazing. In January 2023, and a 7.3 million affordable housing deficit has prompted calls for increased government intervention. However, free market solutions offer a more effective and sustainable path forward. Yeah, because when the government gets involved, all they do is screw it up. If you've never worked for the federal government, you probably think, oh, that's just like my job. They go there, they do a task, they provide a service, and they go home. Now, there's usually 2 or 3 people for every one in the private sector doing a task, and usually they do it poorly and it's not done on time. Again, I served in the Navy. I know exactly how this works. All right. Restrictive zoning laws and building regulations have severely limited housing supply. I'm not sure how. Inflating prices and exacerbating homelessness. Again, these are not federal issues. These are local issues. In Arizona, homelessness surged by 51.5% between 2017 and 2022 due to municipal regulations stifling development. Again, these are not, they talk about the federal government, and then, granted, the local governments don't do great jobs either, but anyways, rent control policies, though well-intentioned, reduce housing supply and drive rent increases, as seen in San Francisco, where rent control cut rental supply by 15% and increased citywide rents by 5.1%. Truthfully, the government should stay out of the rent and housing business. Granted, if you're screwing someone over on a rental agreement or something, get the state involved to solve the dispute. But the government shouldn't be setting rules for how I lease my property, who I lease it to. If I don't want, undesirables living in my property, that's my choice. It's my property. So, all right. Free market success stories. Houston. I'm from Houston. I lived 30 plus years of my 50 years of living in Houston. And it's usually people in Houston complain about the lack of zoning and how it's such a mess. But here, Houston, with no formal zoning laws, Houston maintains significantly lower housing costs than cities like LA or New York, demonstrating how deregulation fosters affordability. Well, homes are, if you live way out in the burbs, I live most of my life in the Clear Lake area where NASA's at. And, it's a 30, 40 hour drive into downtown if you want to fight the traffic. But it's not terrible. Japan, flexible zoning and streamlined building permits in Tokyo have stabilized housing prices for over 2 decades despite high population density. Yeah, but don't talk about their inflation problems. And the path forward, free market reforms such as rolling back restrictive zoning laws, simplifying building codes, and streamlining permits would increase housing supply and address the root cause of high prices. Critics fear gentrification, but increasing overall supply alleviates pressure on existing affordable neighborhoods. Private charities and nonprofits can complement market-driven approaches, offering efficient, targeted support for vulnerable populations without government overreach. By unleashing market forces, the U.S. can achieve an affordable housing market that serves all Americans. The solution lies in removing barriers, not creating more. Yes, totally agree. The do-gooders who work in the government, unfortunately, are not the best at that's why they work in government. It's because they're really not good at much. All right, last up, this comes from First Trust research report, Cautionary Tale for DOGE. If you've heard about DOGE, it's the Department of Government Efficiency, kind of a play on Elon's Dogecoin. But let's read through this. Who wrote this? Brian Westbury, chief economist at First Trust, and see what he had to say. The newly established Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, spearheaded by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, aims to reduce government spending and bureaucracy. However, history provides a cautionary tale in the form of the Grace Commission, created by President Reagan in 1982 to tackle federal waste. Yeah, did a great job. 10 years later, when I was serving in the military, there was plenty of waste still. Despite proposing 2,478 recommendations to save $424 billion, excuse me, most reforms were never implemented, revealing the challenges of overcoming entrenched interests. The big thing is no one wants to fire federal employees and federal contractors because, they're voters. I don't care. They're welfare recipients. It's like saying, we're not going to get rid of, welfare, public handouts because those people vote. Well, first of all, if you're on welfare, you shouldn't be voting. If you're a federal employee, you shouldn't be voting because you're the help. You're basically the gardener. All right. The obstacles, nearly 86% of federal spending in fiscal year 2024 was allocated to mandatory or essential programs, including defense and debt interest, leaving little room for cuts. Additionally, each budget item has vested constituencies, making reform politically difficult. For instance, farm subsidies or renewable energy funding often face opposition from lawmakers representing affected regions. Yeah, like all those stupid windmills out in Kansas. Why DOGE could succeed. Musk's track record of achieving the seemingly impossible, whether revolutionizing electric vehicles, reducing spaceflight costs, or advancing technologies like Starlink, sets DOGE apart. Unlike the Grace Commission, DOGE benefits from Musk's global platform, X, which can expose inefficiencies and rally public opinion. Greater transparency could pressure Congress to reconsider wasteful spending. With Musk and Ramaswamy leading the charge, DOGE has the potential to push back against government inefficiency. While skeptics abound, the combination of visionary leadership, public scrutiny, and the vast scale of modern government may tilt the odds in DOGE's favor. Reforming the Leviathan won't be easy, but history could yet be made. Yeah, I'd like the federal government to get back to what it was intended to do, only serve some very basic functions: common defense, diplomacy with foreign countries, ensuring a free trade zone between the states, meaning no tariffs from Texas to Louisiana. And that's about it. I guess if you could argue that, the highway system, you could argue that the federal highway system is necessary, but, let's take the vagueness out of it, write up an amendment and pass it. Have all the states agree to it that the federal government's in charge, or at least not in charge of, but allowed to create federal highways across the country, and the process of maintaining and upgrading those roads as needed. Other than that, everything else should be handled local, and as local as possible. Your town, then your county, then your city. Town, county, then state. We've already got 3 levels of government before you even get to the federal government. So in my mind, we could save we could probably cut the federal budget, and everyone, what about the military? Well, again, if we're not causing problems around the world, our military does not need to be spread out in Germany and the Middle East and Asia. We got problems here. We got people coming across our border. We got people who don't belong in this country. Use the military to remove the undesirables and the people who don't belong here. And if the people here, if there's a group of Americans who don't like that, you're welcome to go to a state that is, more friendly to those sorts of leftist views. California, I don't think that they stop people from going there. Or you go to the New England area. Those two places you would probably find a very wonderful home if you don't like living in a place where you get to keep all the money that you make and, whatever. Anyways, all right. Well, that's everything that I had for today. If anyone needs to get in touch with me, please go to DSAFinancialGroup.com. All your financial planning needs can be addressed there, so give me a buzz. I'd be happy to help you get back on the track, or hell, I could even take you to the depot to show you where the train is, because most people aren't planning for the future. All right. Well, hope everyone has a great evening, and I'll talk to y'all again next time. Adios.